I like to ask clients, what do you want? I don't think people get asked that question enough, and I don't think people take that question seriously enough. It's amazing how many people can't answer that question right off. They'll answer it eventually.
Hey there, friend. This is Stefanie Krievins, and you're listening to the Hot Mess Hotline, where we teach leaders how to deal with their hot messes, those sticky, weird, political, emotional problems that surface in our business, and if we let them lead to amazing transformation. All right, today's conversation is with one of our faculty members, Nikki Evans. She is an amazing human being, an amazing coach. And oftentimes we get asked, what is coaching? How do you coach? How do you do what you do? And admittedly, coaching is a weird resource in our businesses and in our lives. And so I want to demystify that so you better understand what you're getting when you buy coaching, when you buy transformation through our company here at Stefanie Krievins Co, and learn to become a pro troublemaker. So let's get into this conversation with the one and only Nikki. All right, Nikki, we are here to talk about your awesomeness and what you contribute to Stefanie Krievins Co and what makes you a pro troublemaker. Let's talk, before we spend a ton of time talking about you, which we're going to do, let's hear first about some of the success that you've seen from your coaching relationships. I'd love to hear 2 stories that you've got around people and change and coaching and the challenges that our leaders go through.
Sure. Great question. And I love focusing on clients. So I worked with one client who he was pretty much at a crossroads in his career, wasn't sure that he needed to keep going in what he was doing, was really kind of, have I contributed enough? Am I contributing enough? Should I stay here? Do I have anything left? And through the course of our working together, he reignited the passion that he had for the work that he was doing, really found where his place was. And he had forgotten about what was kind of magic about his contribution because some things had changed. And so he reconnected with why he had chosen that place in the first place and what about his skills were still very relevant and still very useful and could be used for his team. And in fact, he not only said that it, changed kind of the course of what he was doing with his team, but he and his team had to host a conference, and it was kind of the first in-person back conference post-COVID. Yeah. And there was a lot of moving parts, and they had always been really stressful events in the past. And he was able to navigate it in a different way, which his team noticed and which his constituents noticed. And it was his most successful conference ever. And even challenges that they anticipated having during the conference didn't actually happen. And so he kind of was able to get to a place where not only was he more energized, but that was infecting his team with more energy and more excitement about what was going on. And he was able to sort of reignite their passion for the work that they were doing, despite some pretty significant financial headwinds that they were looking at and some pretty significant challenges for the organization. So I feel like we kind of went from a place of, I don't know what I'm going to do, and a little bit of despair, to reconnecting with all of that energy and then really lighting that change for the rest of his team.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And particularly I wrote down your words, the magic about his contribution. Oh, I want all of our people, I want all of us to feel that every single day. Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Tell me another good one.
So I worked with another leader who was pretty fixed in this is how I show up. This is how I am. This is how it's going to work for people. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but this is just kind of how I am. There were some challenges on the team and there was some work going on kind of with the team in general. But really with this particular leader, it was helping him see that, yes, he's wired a certain way. And yes, he does show up a certain way, but that doesn't mean that he has to show up that way all the time. And it doesn't mean that he can't think about what that impact is and what his intentions are and think about different ways of showing up. I think he had gotten into a pattern of, this is what's worked for me in the past. This is kind of what's working for me now. Oh, yeah. And as we worked together, he started to see, just through some of the questions that I asked, hey, have you thought about this? Hey, if that's not working, what else are you trying? And just having a little bit of time to work on his leadership instead of through his leadership, he was able to see some other ways to connect with team, see some ways that he could deliver for clients in a slightly different way, see how he might organize and prioritize work in a different way, so that although the work was very time driven and could be very stressful, kind of that all hands frenetic energy trying to get things done, he realized that there were some other ways that he could manage through that, so that while it was maybe intense, it wasn't as stressful, because everybody was communicating better and everybody was kind of understanding a little bit better about where they contributed and how.
Oh my gosh. So good. And so what I heard in that story is you helped him move from that kind of fixed mindset, fixed pattern. What I've been doing has clearly made me successful because I'm a top level leader in my organization, to, oh, let me adapt my style. Let me navigate situations versus bulldoze through them. And I love that, because this particular company that we worked with, they had this make or break project during the year that we were with them. And it was either they did it and every leader did it, or the organization was at some grave risk. And making this situation intense and a good kind of stress versus a bad kind of stress, and the, oh my God, shit's hitting the fan. Oh my God, we have to do this. It's, oh my God, we get to do this. And this is where we get to step up our game and have high expectations and keep going together, versus, oh, I guess we got to pull this off.
Yeah. And I think just having people show up in a slightly different way, ask a slightly different, ask questions instead of make statements. It was some of those things that were just small things, but that had a huge impact on how he was perceived as a leader, his confidence as a leader, and then his relationships with the rest of the senior team.
Yes to all of that. In delivering the coaching interventions, the strategic advising that we do, one of the questions we get a lot is, what is coaching? And I know how I have my answer in the way that I share that. How do you answer the question, what is coaching?
So I answer it as it's a really powerful conversation that we don't get very much, because it's only focused on the client, right? So how often do you get to talk about just you and just the thing that you want to talk about for a full 45 minutes, hour and a half? Almost never, because that's not how we're taught to have conversations with each other. We're taught to take turns. And usually, especially when we're stressed out about something, we one up each other with our stories. Oh, you had a bad incident with your car? Well, let me tell you what just happened with my car. Now we're not talking about you and your incident anymore. We're talking about me. And so we don't recognize the power of just having space to think about what we're saying, to reflect on our own inner wisdom about what that is, to have somebody support that exploration and help us past some of the quick things that our mind does to shut down that exploration, having a partner to help you do that. And so I find coaching just a really powerful space that gets held with some good questions and some good time for reflection for people to figure out what they know or what they need to know in a slightly different way.
Yeah. Ooh, I love that. When it comes to change, what is one thing that you think, or that not that you think, but that you see our organizations get wrong about change and change management?
Okay, I have two things. One, you've probably heard before, which is it doesn't get communicated enough.
No,
right?
Never. Yeah.
So I think that's one mistake, is that it doesn't get communicated enough or clearly enough. How, why, where, why are we doing it? What is the expectation? How do you play a part in it? The other thing that I don't hear as much, because I've heard that advice a whole bunch of times, communicate change more often. The other thing that I don't hear as often, though, that I think people get wrong about change is that they don't talk about what's not changing. They don't talk about what the arc is for this period of change before steadiness resumes, or before some sense of steadiness around that resumes. And there are a lot of people in your organization that are not excited about change. There'll be some that are super excited, and there'll be some that are not. And to help those people get on board with the big things that you need to get done, first of all, you can't expect everybody's going to be super excited about your big change. But secondly, if you can help them dial into what's not changing, usually with change, one big thing is changing, but 700 small things are not changing. And we don't ever talk about those things. So it just feels like this chaos, change is always happening. And we talk about change as a continual thing in organizations, and that stresses out a lot of brains. So if you can help anchor on, yes, we're doing this big change. Yes, this is what the future is going to look like. This is how you're involved in it. This is what we need from you. This is our commitment to you. This is how we're going to celebrate wins along the way. We're going to do this change in increments. But then also, here are things that aren't changing. Here are things that you can count on that are going to remain steady, like our values, like our mission, like our, the way we treat each other and value each other, like our sense of community, right? What are things that are not changing that you can lean into during a time that's stressful?
Yes. Oh, you're so good. You're so good. So, to connect the dots with the 3 questions so far, we've talked about success, we've talked about coaching as the thing that gets them there in the way that we do it here, and then we talked about what they're getting wrong. So we're kind of reverse engineering when people come to us. And you're one of those linchpins that goes from what's not working to what is working. What's your coaching style? And what do clients get when they get coached specifically by you?
So I would say my style is I'm a thought provoker. I get people to think about things in a slightly different way, or a radically different way. And I do that with a lot of humor, and I do that with a lot of metaphor. So I'm pretty good at taking what you say, even if you have no idea how any of these pieces connect, and connecting them in a way that I can then repeat back to you, either with a metaphor or with a question, to say, here's what that sounds like to me. Here's how I think A, B, and C are all related. And I'm wondering, does this resonate with you? And usually when people hear me repeat back what I've heard from them, but I use my words and my metaphor, they see it in a much clearer way. And they think that I've done some kind of voodoo magic. And I say to them, I'm just telling you what you told me. I didn't know any of this before we started our conversation today. But for someone to be able to see it in front of them and have some clarity around, oh, yes, what you're saying is the thing. Now I have a choice. I can either let it go if it's a thing that's not serving me, or I can put a plan into action to figure out what I want to do with this thing. And so that's kind of my style, is I help you think about things in a different way, get some clarity quickly by using humor and metaphor, and then make a choice. Do we want to take action on this, or is this something we just need to process through and let go?
Yes. Yeah, you are, and I've witnessed this firsthand many times. You are, in my mind, the ultimate dot connector. Clients come to you and they have this issue and they want to word vomit it. So it kind of just like gets plopped down on the table. And you're like, oh, here's this piece and this piece and this piece. And here's the connection. Do you want to keep these connected? Yes or no? And then the client can choose, because it's out of their head, out of their body, out of their heart, and they can see it from a new perspective. And that's what you pull out of them.
Yeah.
So good. Tell us, you weren't always a coach, which the best coaches weren't. What was your experience before you came into being an executive coach, leadership coach, change management coach?
So I started out as a psychology major, but I didn't want to do any of the psychology jobs that I knew about when I was in school. I asked my professors and they didn't have good answers for me. So I was like, meh, I don't want to do any of those things.
Well, to be fair, back then, coaching wasn't like
coaching wasn't a thing. Coaching was not on the list of options.
It was not a thing. Yeah.
So I had friends that had a technology startup, and I said, I'll do whatever you guys want to do. I'm a hand raiser, so I just raised my hand in there. And so I ended up 25 years in various technology roles. I did a little bit of everything in technology and ended up leading a technology team at a large corporation. And during that time, I had an employee who was trying to get out of a job that I had given her. I gave her a project to run, and she didn't want to. And she told me she didn't want to. And I said, I appreciate that. I need you to run it. And then she went to one of my peers, another manager in the organization, and asked him to assign somebody. I said, no, I need you to do it. And then she went to one of her peers, and I said, no, I need you to do it. So I finally said, just come and talk to me. Like, what? I don't understand. I mean, to me, this seemed like the tiniest thing that was like a no-brainer, easy thing for her to do. And she spent more energy trying to get out of it than I think it was going to take her to do the whole thing.
Yep.
So we had this conversation, and she left, and she was kind of excited about the thing that she had just tried so hard to get out of. And I was like, ooh, what was that? I want to do that all the time. Like, what is that? Just being a good leader? Like, I didn't know. Luckily for me, her superpower is recognizing gifts in other people. And so she came back to me and she said, hey, that was a coaching conversation. You're really good at it. You should think about being a coach. And I said, okay. I didn't even know that was a thing. So she introduced me to a friend of hers that was a coach, and he was telling me about the work that he did. And I was like, yes, please, more of that. So I went on to get educated as a coach and certified as a coach, and then set up shop.
Awesome. What specifically did your coach training teach you about coaching and how to approach it?
Lots of things, because I kind of started as a blank slate and had no idea kind of what I was getting into. So I'm an overachiever, right? So I went all the way in. I did a program that was more than 300 hours to get my accreditation. And then I went and got another certification. And then I did another almost 200 hours as a team coach.
Yep.
Because I think that's coming next.
Yep.
But it really taught me how to hold that space, how to recognize everybody's unique intelligence and how to help them recognize it as well, how to ask questions and how not to ask questions, how to just be comfortable in silence. And so, I help leaders with those skills too. You can, you don't have to be a professional coach to use some of the tools in the coaching toolbox.
That's right.
But I certainly, after all of that training, I have all kinds of fun tips and tricks for how to do it. But I think it really helped me get a frame for what that conversation is and how do you hold space for somebody, and when should you say something and when should you just listen.
Yes. And the value of, as you alluded to, like, can we teach our clients to do some of those same things? Absolutely. But the biggest part of what we do is, because we're detached from their outcomes, because we're detached from their goals, we just see it from a different perspective than they can, because as humans, they have ownership, they have politics, they have emotions involved. And most of the time that's A-okay until it's hindering growth and progress. And that's the value we can bring and say, okay, what do you need to hold on to? What's real? And what can you adapt around moving forward? You don't see it until someone outside says, hey, maybe let's think about this differently. Maybe it's not so fixed. What do you think for those listening in? Because I always say to our clients, like, I want you to have the best client fit possible. And we bring a lot of amazing coaches to the table for our folks to consider. What do you think is important for our clients to consider when choosing a coach?
So we typically make an impression on people within 30 seconds. And so when you start talking to somebody, I would say the most important is, can I talk to this person? Do I understand? Do I like them? Just even setting aside, like, should I like you or not like you in 30 seconds? It kind of doesn't matter. You have to have chemistry with your coach. You have to feel like you're going to be in a safe place, because you only get out of coaching what you're willing to put in. So if you won't say something to your coach, you won't get that. Now, a lot of coaches can help you, can pick on, hey, I know there's something you're not saying, but you have to be willing to put effort in. You have to be willing to make change. And so I would say, the most important thing is, do I want to talk to this person? Do I want to share with them things that I'm afraid to share with other people?
Yes. Yep.
And if the answer is no, then the answer is no. And it has nothing to do with how professional or how good that coach is or how much that coach has done for other people. It has to be your person. And if it's not your person, good coaches will say, great, I'm not your person. Let me help you find somebody who is, because what we want for people is the best experience possible. And if I can't provide you that, then I want you to find somebody who can. It's not about me trying to change so that I can match you where you are. It's about, do we feel this chemistry together? Do you think that you would enjoy working with me? And do you think that my style of using metaphors and using humor, that works great for some people? And I'm kind of patient with people as they get to that place. That works well for some people. And some people really just need the no bullshit. We're only doing this time. And I'm a little bit more flexible than that. So if that's not what you're looking for and that's not what you need and that's not going to serve you the best, then find somebody who can.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, depending on which phase and which problem you're tackling in your career, you might need a different style. It's, the success story we talked about at the beginning. So we coach the entire leadership team as a unit who's responsible for shared results, and then coaches through our company coached individuals about their own leadership style. And, the way that team chose their own individual coaches was they purposefully went for people who had different disc styles or different body style communication, if you will, than they did. And other organizations are going to say, you know what, I want somebody that has the same disc style as me so I can learn from them. And it's because they needed challenged and pushed in that phase of their business that's why they went for something opposite of them. But there's other times where we need affirmation and nimbleness and flexibility, and that's okay too. In maybe a different season of your career, you need a gentler approach, or you need somebody that can step in and out of either of those styles.
Yeah.
What do you believe to be the best fit for you in terms of leaders and teams that can get the most from your experience and your style?
I kind of said this before, but I'm a puzzle solver. You said connect the dots, right? So if you don't know exactly, you need something and you don't know what the something is, you know that something's not right, but you've tried some things, or you don't even know where to start to try some things, but you just know that things aren't working. If you just need to kind of get everything out and then have somebody help you figure out what does that even mean? What is that? I'm your girl, right? I can help you figure out what's the pattern, what's the pieces, how these things that seem so disconnected. Often I'll have a client say, I don't think we have anything to talk about today. I'm not sure that I have anything to tell you today, but let me just give you an update. And as they're giving this update, I start to see a pattern of, hey, this sounds like something we've talked about before. Or, hey, this sounds like, and so if you're not sure, if you don't have a clear agenda of this is the thing I need to work on, I need to get it figured out right now, I need somebody to hold me accountable, I can do that too. But my gift is really I'm not 100% sure what needs to change, but something needs to change and I need help.
Yes.
I'm really good in that spot.
Yes, you are. I would agree completely. What is your top go-to powerful question that you ask your clients? The thing that, sometimes you just see the magic come in.
I like to ask clients, what do you want? I don't think people get asked that question enough, and I don't think people take that question seriously enough. It's amazing how many people can't answer that question right off. They'll answer it eventually.
Agreed completely. And what we've experienced through coaching is doing what is best for you is always the right thing to do, because it unlocks other magic in the universe for it to play out. And until you can answer the question, what do you want? You often don't know the best course of action to take.
Yep. If you don't know where you're going,
you'll end up anywhere.
Hard to get there.
I was going to say, yes. All right. Oh, we've learned so much about your awesome sauce. Anything else we could know, Nikki?
I'm just so proud of the work that we all do together, that we're able to do as a group and as individuals within the organization, to make change, to hold people accountable, to celebrate differences, to celebrate different ways of doing things, to help people tap into what their genius is. So it's not a one size fits all, here's exactly how you run a change management, project. It's what's working and what's not working for you, and how are you and your team and the particular mix of who you have going to do with that change. So I'm just so proud that we have such a diverse group of people that we work with, and that you can work with as part of our organization to help you figure out what you need and get stuff done.
Love it. Well, thank you for your time today. And I look forward to sharing your message, your perspective with so many more people, because just this little conversation, they're going to get so much out of it to better understand how we can help. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.